where he was given the choice of paying a fine of 80 Ghana cedis or spending 4 months in jail. Now, most people would have paid the fine and moved on, but this driver was determined to fight what he saw was an injustice. He appealed both the judgment and the sentence, setting a legal law that was fundamentally how police conduct arrests in Ghana. His lawyer, Dr. Henija, crafted arguments that were both brilliant and revolutionary, challenging the very foundation of police arrest procedures. His first argument was that Constable Abalo was not legally empowered to arrest his client because the officer had failed to disclose the true grounds for his arrest. This wasn't just a technicality, it struck at the heart of citizens' rights and police accountability. The lawyer argued that when Abalo seized the car keys to prevent his client from leaving, this act itself constituted an unlawful assault on his client's person. The legal reasoning was as sophisticated as it was compelling. Under the law, acts that cause annoyance can constitute assault, and the unauthorized seizure of someone's property, particularly car keys, certainly qualified. If the police officer's actions were unlawful, then the lorry driver had every right to use corresponding force to defend himself and regain his freedom. It was a complete reversal of the prosecution's narrative. Dr. Jan's second argument targeted the damage charge. He pointed out that the prosecution had failed to demonstrate the actual value of damage down to the torn trousers, making the unlawful damage charge legally unfounded. Every detail mattered in this case. The prosecution, led by Uyeboa, fought back with their own legal arguments. They distinguished the cases cited by lawyer Jan, noting that unlike other cases where civilians did not know that they were assaulting police officers, Kwesi was fully aware of Constable Abalo's status as a law enforcement officer. They argued that the force used by the driver was under the circumstances, particularly the kicking of the officer when he was already down on the ground. The prosecution also defended the damage charge, arguing that they had properly tendered evidence of the damaged trousers and that the driver could not disprove the charge in any meaningful way. They believed their case was solid, but they were about to discover that legal technicalities can overturn even the most seemingly obvious convictions. The case eventually reached the High Court for Justice Ankechi, and his decision would resonate throughout Ghana's legal system. His approach to the case demonstrated a fidelity to legal principles that prioritize citizens' rights over the convenience or assumptions about police authority. Justice Ankechi began by establishing the fundamental legal principles governing police arrest. He clarified that while the law empowered police officers to arrest persons reasonably suspected of committing offences without a warrant, they were equally under a strict duty to fully disclose why the person was being arrested. The only exceptions to this disclosure requirement were when someone was caught in the criminal act itself or escaping from lawful custody. The judge's analysis of the facts were devastating to the prosecution's case. He noted that if Constable Abalo had been detailed to accompany Abena based on suspicions that Kwesi had assaulted her, the lawful procedure would have been to inform the driver of this suspicion and place him under lawful arrest. Instead, the officer had simply told him that he was wanted at the police station without any explanation of why. Even more damaging to the prosecution's case was what happened after the driver expressed his unwillingness to go to the station. No further explanation was provided, no formal arrest was made, and no legal justification was given for his continued detention. The court determined that by failing to disclose the reason for the arrest and then seizing the driver's keys to prevent him from moving his lorry, it was actually the lorry driver, Kwesi, whose freedom of movement was being unlawfully curtailed. The judge's reasoning was radical. He found that the driver had become the victim of a unique form of assault, specifically the assault of false imprisonment under Section 85 and Section 88 of Act 29, where a person's movement is curtailed without legal justification. This interpretation transformed the entire case from one of civilian assault on police to one of police misconduct and citizen self-defense. Because Constable Abalo's initial actions were not justified in law, Justice Ankechi ruled that the lorry driver had every right to defend himself. The judge emphasized that whether self-defense is available to the accused person. In this instance, the driver was completely within his right to launch an attack to free himself from the unlawful imprisonment that the police officer had subjected him to. The second charge, regarding the damaged trousers, also fell apart under legal scrutiny. While Justice Antechi acknowledged that the law permitted such charges to be laid even without stating the value of the damage, the act must have been done intentionally as well as unlawfully. The court had already established that the driver was justified in resisting Constable Apalo in self-defense. His actions in forcibly removing the officer from around his lorry were justified efforts to regain his liberty and control of his vehicle. The judge's final ruling was comprehensive and unambiguous. The conviction was quashed entirely, and the fine of 80 Ghana cedis was ordered to return to the driver if he had already paid it. Justice Antechi's decision didn't just free one lorry driver, it established legal precedent that will protect countless other Ghanaians from unlawful arrest and detention. The irony of this case was not lost on legal observers. Constable Apalo, who thought he was doing his duty by trying to bring in a suspect, ended up being beaten and humiliated, all because proper arrest procedures weren't followed. His pain and damaged uniform became the price of a legal education that transformed Ghana's approach to arrests and citizens' rights. This case is a powerful reminder that justice often comes from the most unexpected places. A lorry driver's stubborn refusal to comply with improper police procedures became the foundation for stronger legal protections for all Ghanaians. History proves that sometimes the most important legal victories come not from courtrooms filled with dignitaries, but from ordinary people who refuse to accept injustice, no matter how powerless they might seem. Please follow Super Law GH Studios for more legal stories, real cases, real people.
If you want to prevent dementia, Alzheimer's, and other neurodegenerative diseases, we have to make sure that we're cleaning and flushing our brain out every night, right? So our body has the lymphatic system, and that uses lymph, a clear fluid that has proteins and white blood cells in it to clean the body out. Our brain has a lymphatic system, and that uses cerebrospinal fluid and blood in order to clear the brain out. So when we go to sleep, our brain cells shrink so that the fluid can get through the brain and clear out all the toxins, the lectins, the methylpolysaccharides, the amyloids. Amyloids are shed molecules that break off from healthy bacteria and then travel up the vagus nerve to the brain and multiply in the brain. In order to ensure that we're flushing all of those things out, we have to have enough blood to travel to the brain when we go to sleep. So when we eat too close to the time that we go to sleep, the blood is being used to digest food and not to help our cerebrospinal fluid travel to the brain and clear out our brain. So you can't eat 4 hours before you go to sleep in order to have that process work the best, because the lymphatic system works best during the beginning of our sleep cycle. If your schedule isn't allowing you to not eat at that time,